Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source materials, distill them, and turn complex information into, well, crystal clear, actionable knowledge.
And our mission today is all about the power of focus.
Exactly. When you are looking at a vast, diverse market, the simple truth is you just can't connect effectively with everyone.
Not a chance.
Marketing success, the kind that drives real growth, it hinges entirely on strategically selecting the right battles, or maybe more accurately, selecting the right customers. So we are doing a serious deep dive into the art and science of market segmentation and target identification. We're going to use your comprehensive sources to build a kind of map covering 4 foundational questions.
Right. First, what are the different levels and bases we even use to slice up a market?
Then second, how do we actually divide both consumer and business markets using these tools?
Third is a big one. What practical requirements make a segmentation strategy, truly effective?
And finally, once we've done all that work, how do we choose the single most attractive segment to actually target?
It's the core of modern marketing, really.
It really is. And to kick things off, let's start with a phenomenal real-world case study. It's a story of segmentation that went through success, then catastrophic failure, and finally, ultimate redemption. Let's talk about Club Mediterranean.
Club Med. It's the perfect illustration of how critical this is.
It really is.
So back in 1950, Club Med basically invented the all-inclusive resort model. Their initial segment was the adventurous, maybe slightly countercultural traveler.
Right. Their whole theme was the antidote to civilization.
Exactly. They were targeting singles and young couples, providing truly bare-bones accommodations in these exotic locations. And when we say bare bones, we're talking about rooms so basic they often lacked phones, TVs, sometimes even locks on the door.
Wow. So the value was all in the escape, the community, not the luxury.
Not at all. It was pure niche segmentation, appealing to a very specific early post-war mentality.
But markets don't stand still, do they?
They absolutely do not. And by the 1970s, Club Med realized that if they wanted to scale, they couldn't just cater to that adventurous single.
So they had to broaden their appeal.
They did. They added family-friendly services. They created a massive range of specialized activities in their villages, everything from snow skiing to flying trapeze clinics.
A flying trapeze, right.
And their unique staff, the Gentile Organizators, or GOs, they maintained that famously informal atmosphere by dining and playing with the clients, who they called Gentiles members.
So they successfully evolved, but then they hit that wall in the early 2000s. They tried to go too broad, didn't they?
Way too broad. They tried to segment outside their core competency entirely. They attempted a series of urban bar and restaurant ventures that were, they were catastrophic failures.
That, combined with the post-9/11 travel recession and all the new competition.
Exactly. The new, cheap, all-inclusive brands were eating their lunch. Club Med was absolutely reeling by 2001. They had just lost sight of their core customer.
And that crisis forced a dramatic choice. You mentioned their leadership under Henri Giscard d'Estaing. What was their ultimate winning strategy?
They executed a brutal but necessary pivot. They invested hundreds of millions of dollars to move definitively upscale.
So they abandoned their roots.
Completely. They abandoned the bare-bones, low-cost segment they had started with. They consciously moved to target wealthier customers, people who wanted sophistication and luxury, not just a shared beach hut. By 2010, their messaging reflected this shift entirely, where happiness means the world.
A huge change.
A huge change, and it saved them. They learned that hard lesson that trying to be everything to everyone ultimately means you're serving no one well.
And that strategic pivot really defines the entire topic for us today. Your source material outlines the 3 required steps for effective target marketing.
Right. First, you identify and profile distinct groups of buyers. That's market segmentation. Second, you select which of those segments you're actually going to pursue. That's market targeting.
And third is positioning, which is establishing and communicating the unique benefits of your offering. But for this deep dive, we are focused squarely on those crucial first 2 steps, segmentation and targeting.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack the fundamentals. A market segment is, simply put, a well-defined slice of the market, a group of customers who share a similar set of needs, wants, or responses to marketing.
And the marketer's job isn't just to see that there are differences. It's to figure out how many segments exist, what their specific nature is, and crucially, which one's the company's best equipped to satisfy.
So how do we start defining these groups?
We use segmentation variables, and they fall into 2 main categories. The first is Descriptive characteristics, this is really answering the question, who is the customer?
So things like where they live,
Uh-huh.
basic facts about them.
Exactly. Geographic, demographic, and psychographic variables.
And the second category?
That's behavioral considerations. This answers the question, what does the customer do? It looks at their responsiveness, what benefits they're looking for, when and how often they use the product, their loyalty status.
The goal is always to find differences that require a unique marketing program.
Always.
Okay, let's start with one of the most straightforward and powerful ways to segment: geographic segmentation. This is dividing the market based on physical units, nations, regions, states, cities, neighborhoods.
Right. And while global firms might operate everywhere, ignoring local nuances, well, it's marketing suicide.
That's why we see the emergence of grassroots marketing tailoring programs to local groups as closely as possible, making the marketing feel personally relevant.
Nike is a textbook example of this. They didn't start by sponsoring global superstars. They built their brand by sponsoring local school teams, running clinics, and just making sure the product was available right there at the community level.
Citibank does it too, right? Varying their services from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Based on local income and ethnic composition. It's
Yep.
just smart.
I love the example of Curves, the exercise chain that targets middle-aged women. They recognize that psychological barrier to exercise. So to reach weight-conscious women where they might feel conflicted, they strategically place forms in local ice cream shops and pizza parlors.
Which is just brilliant. It's not national advertising. That's hyper-local, targeted outreach right at the point of conflict.
And that leads us to the surprising efficiency of localization, which is just exemplified by Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yes, this national retailer fueled its growth by doing the opposite of what you'd expect. They allow their store managers to pick a staggering 70% of their own merchandise locally.
Wait, 70%? I would have assumed a national chain needs centralized buying to save money. You're saying they let local managers buy most of the merchandise?
Man, it sounds like chaos from a logistics standpoint.
It does. How does that system even work?
It works because they gain supreme relevance, which drives repeat business and loyalty. The Beyond part of their name is locally defined. For a manager in Manhattan, Beyond means stocking wall paint because people don't have cars to drive to a big box store.
Whereas in the suburbs, paint would be dead inventory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Customers sometimes mistake the national chain for a mom-and-pop store, which is the ultimate complement for localized marketing. It feels tailor-made.
And as technology progresses, this localization gets even more precise, right down to the specific zip code. They talk about customer cloning,
Which is the idea that your best prospects often live exactly where your current customers already reside.
This is where we get into geo-clustering.
Okay, so what is geoclustering?
It's the deep synthesis of geographic location with demographic and lifestyle data. The benchmark system here is Nielsen-Clarita's PRISM-E. This system classifies over 500,000 U.S. residential neighborhoods into 14 distinct groups and 66 distinct lifestyle segments, or PRISM clusters.
That is surgically precise segmentation. What are the inputs for that level of detail? PRISM uses 39 factors across 5 broad categories: education and affluence, family life cycle, urbanization, race and ethnicity, and mobility. The core idea is simple. Tell me where you live, and I will tell you who you are. People within a cluster tend to share purchasing habits, drive similar cars, seek similar leisure activities.
Let's look at the marketing implications by contrasting 2 clusters from the sources. On one hand, you have the young digerati.
Right. Affluent, highly educated, typically singles and couples, living in trendy urban fringe areas. They're at microbrew bars and clothing boutiques, and are heavy users of digital media.
And you contrast that immediately with the old Milltown segment.
A completely different world. These are mostly retired singles and couples, living on downscaled incomes in older homes in former industrial towns. Their activities revolve around gardening, sewing, and socializing at veterans clubs.
So if you're selling retirement services, the whole marketing mix changes based on that one PRISM code.
The entire mix. The digerati want digitally managed investments for global travel. The old Milltowns want a local, trustworthy advisor who focuses on stable U.S.-made products.
And the applications are widespread. The U.S. Army uses a custom Clarita system for recruitment. Wendy's and Petco use these maps to strategically locate new stores.
And Ace Hardware, after launching a loyalty program, found that just 12 clusters generated the bulk of their business. That allowed them to precisely target high-value customers with specific promotions.
But this brings us to the crucial trade-off.
It does. This superior relevance achieved through localized marketing is fantastic for the customer, but it increases manufacturing, administrative, and logistics costs by reducing economies of scale. And if you vary your product and message too widely, you risk diluting the strength and consistency of your overall brand image.
It's a constant balancing act.
Always, between relevance and efficiency.
Okay, moving on to the second major descriptive characteristic, demographic segmentation. This is maybe the most popular base because variables like age, income, and gender are often the easiest to measure, and they correlate highly with needs and wants.
Right. You can use demographic data to estimate market size even if the actual segment definition is, non-demographic. We can start with age and life cycle stage.
Because needs and abilities change as people age.
Of course. Pampers is excellent at this. They segment their diaper market finely into prenatal, new baby, 0-5 months, baby, 6-12 months, toddler, and preschooler, because they recognize the specific developmental needs at each stage.
But you brought up the famous age trap, and the sources highlight the Honda Element case as a prime warning. Honda designed that boxy vehicle, the dorm room on wheels, specifically targeting 21-year-olds.
And the average age of the Element buyer turned out to be 42.
42. So what happened?
A lot of baby boomers were attracted by the youth lifestyle being advertised. This is the crucial insight. You have to segment by life cycle or desired lifestyle, not just chronological age. Older consumers are actively resisting traditional notions of aging.
So age is a less reliable proxy for behavior than it used to be.
Much less reliable. This is why we also have to look at life stage. People the same age can be in completely different life stages, facing fundamentally different major concerns like divorce, a second marriage, buying a new home, caring for an elderly parent.
And these transitions are huge marketing opportunities.
Huge. For insurance, finance, specialized services, even if the ages of the customers are identical.
Next, gender segmentation. The sources highlight some fundamental differences. Women tend to be more communal, while men are often more goal-directed.
And the commercial reality is that women control or influence over 80% of consumer goods and services in the US and UK. It's a massive number.
The origin story of Victoria's Secret perfectly illustrates the power of this kind of gender insight.
It's a great story. The founder, Leslie Wexner, realized that a generation ago, women bought bland underwear from department stores out of need. But European women were buying expensive lingerie from boutiques, driven by want.
That distinction, need versus want, is brilliant.
It's everything. By creating a theatrical, glamorous, European-style lingerie experience, they successfully segmented the market. They moved mass-market shoppers from bland functionality to aspirational indulgence.
And the metrics prove it. The Victoria's Secret average customer bought 8 to 10 bras annually.
Compared with the national average of just 2, they created a whole new segment based on emotional desire that commanded a massive price premium and increased purchase frequency.
Okay, let's shift to income segmentation. This is historically important for luxury goods, but the sources warn us that income isn't always predictive.
Right. We have the example of blue-collar workers buying color TV sets first because it was a cheaper form of entertainment than going out.
And what's fascinating here is the current structural change in the economy leading to an hourglass market.
Yes, the middle market is hollowing out. Consumers are migrating simultaneously toward deep discount products. Think Walmart, Costco, and premium or super premium products like Viking ranges.
And this traps traditional mid-market companies.
Like many department stores or traditional grocers, right in the middle, just steadily losing share.
This behavior is explained by the concept of trading up, down, and over.
Right. Consumers trade up to new luxury items, goods that offer higher quality, taste, and emotional aspiration, but are still accessible.
And there are 3 types of these luxury products.
First, there are accessible super premium products like Victoria's Secret or Kettle Gourmet chips. High price premium, but a low enough ticket to be an impulse buy.
Then old luxury brand extensions like a Mercedes-Benz C-Class.
Exactly. You get the brand's cachet at a lower entry point. And third, prestige goods, which sit between the average and the super premium, like Kendall Jackson wine. The common thread is strong emotional engagement.
And to fund that emotional trading up, consumers deliberately trade down on non-emotional staple goods.
You got it. You buy giant packs of generic paper towels at Costco to free up cash for that aspirational purchase.
And Mintel introduced the concept of trading over,
which is switching spending from one category entirely to another. You might prioritize a new, high-end home theater system over replacing your car. Or, as the sources suggest, you choose Tide Total Care, which gets you dry cleaning results at home, effectively trading the cost of a service for a home-based product solution.
It's all about that recession-minded lifestyle combined with a refusal to sacrifice results.
That's it.
That brings us perfectly to the next critical layer, generational cohorts. We saw how age groups don't always predict behavior, like with the Honda element.
Which is why we need to step back and look at generations, recognizing that the shared historical context of your formative years often defines your consumer outlook more than your current age.
Let's start with the millennials, or Gen Y, 1979-1994. This is a huge group, 78 million, with massive spending power.
They're the echo boomers. They're intrinsically wired, technologically savvy, and often have a sense of entitlement, but also a strong sense of social consciousness.
And because they're selective and impatient, often rejecting hard sell tactics, marketers have had to get exceptionally creative.
Oh, absolutely. The sources identify 7 key ways to reach this generation: utilizing online buzz, recruiting student ambassadors like Red Bull did, sponsoring unconventional sports, creating cool events,
Product placement in computer games, getting into videos, mobilizing street teams.
the whole 9 yards. The PNC Virtual Wallet is a great product example. Banks studied Gen Y and realized they struggled with complex finances and found bank websites clunky.
So they designed the wallet specifically for them.
They did. It combined 3 accounts and featured a highly visual calendar tool that showed their estimated future cash flow. It was designed purely to meet the impatience and tech savvy of this one cohort.
Next up, Gen X, 1964-1978, about 50 million strong.
The latchkey kids. They were raised in uncertain times defined by downsizing, so they're pragmatic, individualistic, and deeply wary of hype.
So for Gen X, direct appeals work best.
Yes, they value efficiency and clear value propositions. No BS.
Then we have the colossal baby boomers, 1946-1964, 76 million consumers with over $1 trillion in spending power.
And they're so often overlooked by media buyers who are fixated on that 1849 demo, but they're the engine driving demand for anti-aging products, actively resisting getting old.
50 is the new 30.
Exactly. And we also see the boom effect,
Yeah.
where they're significantly influenced by their Gen Y kids adopting new tech and media trends. Critically, over half of boomers are willing to switch brands, meaning they're a highly competitive segment.
And finally, the silent generation, 1925-1945.
They are actively redefining old age. 60% of people over 65 feel younger than their chronological age, and they lead active lives. So marketers have to show vibrant living in their ads and steer clear of those tired cliches, like a couple just strolling on a beach at sunset.
Which they find dismissive.
Very. And this group also holds a critical role as grandparents. The founders of ebeanstalk.com, a toy seller, discovered that 40% of their customers were grandparents, who are often less price sensitive.
All these demographic and historical details are useful, but they don't explain why 2 people of the same age and income buy completely different things. That takes us to the final descriptive layer, psychographics.
Right. This is the science of using psychology and demographics together to really understand consumer motivation.
And the best-known framework here is the VALS system.
VLS, or Values and Lifestyles. It classifies U.S. adults into 8 primary groups based on 2 dimensions: their primary motivation and their resources innovation level.
Okay, what are the 3 primary motivations that anchor the system?
They are ideals, so you're guided by knowledge and principles; achievement, you're driven to demonstrate success to your peers; and self-expression, where you're driven by social or physical activity, variety, and risk.
So it's the motivation that often dictates behavior more than income or age.
That's the key insight.
Let's quickly profile the 8 types. On the high-resource end, you have the innovators.
Successful, sophisticated, cultivated tastes, seeking upscale niche products. Then you have thinkers, who are ideal motivated, seeking durability and value. Achievers are achievement motivated. They favor premium products that demonstrate success. And experiencers are young, impulsive, and spend heavily on fashion and entertainment.
And on the lower resource end,
You find the believers, who are conservative, conventional, and deeply loyal to established brands. Strivers are trendy but constrained by resources, often trying to emulate the wealthy. Makers are practical and self-sufficient, valuing U.S.-made products. And finally, survivors are elderly and passive, highly brand loyal out of necessity, not choice.
that segmentation is extremely powerful because it defines why they buy.
It's the difference between guessing what people buy and knowing why they're buying it.
We've covered who the customer is and what motivates them. Now let's turn to behavioral segmentation, dividing buyers based on their actual use of or response to a product.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
And the most common approach here is segmenting by needs and benefits.
Right. Not everyone buys the same product for the same reason. For example, Constellation Brands identified 6 distinct segments in the U.S. premium wine market.
6 segments for one type of wine. We heard about the enthusiasts and the savvy shoppers, but let's look closer at one specific group: the image seekers.
Image seekers are 20% of the market. They tend to skew male, average age 35, and they use wine as a badge of status symbol to demonstrate their taste and success. Crucially, they are highly willing to pay more to ensure they get the right bottle,
So their core need is social status.
which is very different from the traditionalists' need for comfort in established brands. A campaign targeting image seekers has to be all about aspiration and sophistication.
This connects closely to decision roles. We often focus just on the person paying for the product, the buyer, but there are 5 different roles in almost every buying decision.
The initiator, the influencer, the decider, the buyer, and the user. And you have to target all 5.
Give us an example.
Think of a family buying a treadmill. The wife might be the initiator, requesting it for health. The best friend who researches models is the key influencer. The wife and husband might be the joint deciders. The husband typically becomes the buyer, but the whole family is the user.
So if you only advertise to the buyer, the husband, you might miss the 2 most important roles.
You'd miss the initiator and the influencer who actually drove the whole purchase.
Next, we look at user and usage-related variables.
Right. This covers occasions, user status, and usage rate. Usage rate is particularly crucial. Heavy users are a small percentage of the consumer base, but account for a disproportionately massive percentage of consumption.
The sources cite heavy beer drinkers.
Yeah, there are small slices of the population, but account for 87% of total beer consumption, 7 times more than light drinkers.
That concentration means marketers focus heavily on this small group, but that seems risky.
It is. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
If they're already loyal, your campaign might be wasted. If they're just chasing the lowest price, you might ruin your profitability.
We also look at user status.
Non-user, ex-user, potential user, first-time user, and regular user. Blood banks spend a lot of time and resources recruiting ex-donors who are known, proven customers. Market share leaders, on the other hand, often focus on attracting potential users who are currently unaware of the product category itself.
Then there's the buyer readiness stage, which is basically the marketing funnel.
Exactly. Is the consumer unaware, aware, informed, interested, desirous, or intending to buy? This tells you where your marketing efforts are failing. If you have high awareness but low intent to buy, you have a product or price problem, not an advertising problem.
It guides where you allocate the budget.
It has to. And finally, under behavior, we analyze loyalty status. We have hardcore loyals, split loyals, shifting loyals, and switchers.
And each group provides essential intelligence.
They do. Hardcore loyals define your true brand strength. Split loyals reveal your closest competitors. And shifting loyals, well, they expose your operational or marketing weaknesses that you have to correct.
Let's pivot now to a segment that requires the utmost sensitivity and specificity: multicultural marketing.
Yes. The sources emphasize that cultural and ethnic segments have distinct needs and cannot be reached effectively by a mass approach. These markets are growing significantly faster than non-multicultural populations.
McDonald's, for instance, does 40% of its U.S. business with ethnic minorities.
So ignoring their specific norms, language nuances, and buying habits is just leaving billions on the table.
The Hispanic American market is the largest minority, with over $1 trillion in purchasing power. But even this segment is highly diverse.
Very diverse. Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican. Goya sells 1,600 products, including 38 varieties of beans, just to cater to these subsegment needs.
What are the key insights here?
Brand loyalty and strong family values. P&G research noted that Hispanic consumers are highly value-oriented. They believe that lo barato sale caro, cheap can be expensive. They seek quality and longevity, not just the lowest price.
And we have the famous segmentation failure and correction with the Got Milk campaign. When they initially translated Got Milk directly into Spanish, it was a catastrophe. Why?
Because in Spanish-speaking households, not having milk wasn't a funny inconvenience. It implied family failure and inability to provide, which is a very serious thing. They had to abandon the humor and pivot to the tagline, Familia, Amor y Leche, family, love, and milk. They targeted the underlying cultural value.
State Farm showed remarkable cultural understanding by subtly sponsoring a norteño band.
Right, Los Felinos de la Noche. They used the band's color, red, and had them praise the company in interviews, connecting with first-generation Hispanics on a deeper emotional level.
Let's turn to African Americans. This group has a huge cultural impact.
They do. Surveys show they are highly fashion-conscious, motivated by quality and selection, and heavily influenced by their children when making purchases. Hallmark successfully catered to this market with its mahogany line, growing from 16 to 800 cards.
Ad messages need deep resonance.
Campaigns for Larry's Seasoned Salt use images of soul food, and KFC campaigns depicted African-American families at reunions, reflecting a clear understanding of their values.
But the sources also acknowledge the ethical dimension here.
Yes, and it's critical. Cigarette, liquor, and fast food firms have faced severe criticism for targeting urban African-American populations, raising important questions about responsible targeting.
Next, Asian Americans. They were historically the invisible market.
And it's the most diverse segment, Chinese, Filipino, Indian, and so on, which severely limits the effectiveness of Pan-Asian appeals. They're comparatively affluent and well-educated, but interestingly, they are the least loyal to specific brands.
Kraft's research uncovered a phenomenal insight here.
It was amazing. They found that Asian American shoppers didn't want more Asian-style products from Kraft. They wanted to learn how to prepare Western-style meals using Kraft products.
So instead of new products, Kraft's communications focused on cultural integration.
Exactly. Using Mandarin and Cantonese, targeting immigrant moms, and using the proverb, life has 100 flavors. It was about validating their desire to integrate.
And finally, the LGBT market, with massive collective buying power.
Right. Companies like American Airlines and Hyatt dedicate specialized teams and online resources to this community. While they sometimes face backlash, the fact that they continue their targeted advertising underscores the strategic importance of this segment.
Okay, let's talk B2B. Segmenting business markets uses a lot of the same variables, but with another layer of complexity.
It does. It overlays consumer variables with a host of specialized variables focusing on the purchasing organization itself. The sources provide a clear hierarchy, starting with macro segmentation.
So we start with demographics like industry, company size, location.
Then we move to operating variables like technology and user status. Then purchasing approaches, situational factors, and finally personal characteristics of the buyers themselves. It's a filtration process.
Let's use the concept of sequential segmentation to illustrate. A tire company, for example.
First has to decide on the macro level: automobiles, trucks, farm tractors, or aircraft. If they choose automobiles, they then move to microsegmentation, distinguishing buyers by purchasing criteria like price, service, or quality.
So a scientific equipment manufacturer might realize that government labs want low prices, university labs want low service needs, and industrial labs want maximum reliability.
Exactly. 3 distinct segments within the same core industry, all demanding 3 distinct offers.
Which means a rigid product won't work. Companies often need flexible market offerings.
Right. This is a concept with 2 parts. A naked solution, the core product elements all segment members, value plus discretionary options, which are additional value elements offered at an extra charge.
Like Siemens selling metal-clad boxes as the naked solution, but offering installation as an option.
Or Delta Airlines. All economy passengers get a seat and a snack, the naked solution. But alcoholic beverages and specific meals are discretionary charges. It ensures the price reflects the exact value received by each microsegment.
Now we come to a concept that challenges the very premise of mass market segmentation: the long tail theory.
Yeah, this is a big one. Traditional mass marketing operated on the 80-20 rule, focusing on hits, the head of the sales curve.
Where 80% of revenue came from 20% of products.
But Chris Anderson argued that online commerce, Amazon, Netflix, has shifted this dynamic entirely. The long tail is the millions of obscure niche products a brick-and-mortar store could never stock.
And Anderson argues the new rule is closer to 50-50, where all those smaller selling niche products, when you add them all up, equal half of a firm's total revenue.
It's a huge claim. It rests on 3 premises: lower distribution costs, tapping into latent demand for niche tastes, and that aggregating enough of these small niches creates a significant new market.
But there are critiques.
Oh yes, some argue that hits are still disproportionately valuable, and the long tail is often just mediocre content. Others point out that many products in the tail are so obscure they just disappear without good recommendation systems. And for physical goods, stocking costs can easily negate the benefits.
So once segments are identified, we need a rigorous selection process. To be effective, segments have to meet 5 critical criteria.
This is the practical checklist for you, the listener. First, is it measurable? Can you quantify the size, purchasing power, and characteristics of this group?
Second, is it substantial? Is it large and profitable enough to serve?
Third, is it accessible? Can you actually reach and serve them?
Fourth, and this is often the hardest one, is it differentiable? Does this segment behave differently than this segment next door?
And fifth, is it actionable? Can you formulate effective, tailored programs to attract and serve them? If you can't, the segment is useless to you.
And if the segment meets those 5 criteria, we then evaluate its long-run attractiveness using Michael Porter's 5 forces.
Right. First, the threat of intense segment rivalry.
Mhm.
A segment is unattractive if it's already full of strong competitors. Think about the cellular phone market.
Second, the threat of new entrants. The best segment has high entry barriers and low exit barriers. The worst is the opposite, which guarantees chronic overcapacity and depressed earnings, like in the airline industry.
Third, the threat of substitute products. Substitutes cap your prices and profits. Air travel, for instance, severely limited the profitability of Greyhound and Amtrak.
Fourth, the threat of buyers' growing bargaining power. Buyers become powerful when they're concentrated or the product is undifferentiated. Think of the power Walmart has over packaged goods companies.
And fifth, the threat of suppliers' growing bargaining power. They're powerful when they're concentrated or switching costs are high. Understanding these 5 forces is what separates a technically viable segment from a strategically profitable one.
So once we've evaluated attractiveness, we decide on the targeting level. We have a continuum here, from the broad mass market to treating individuals as segments.
The top end is full market coverage, typically only for giants like Coke or GM. They could do this in 2 ways. First, undifferentiated or mass marketing, ignoring segment differences, one offer for everyone. Henry Ford's Black Model T is the classic example.
But market splintering and the cost of communication make that extremely difficult today.
Very. So the second way is differentiated marketing, selling different products to all the segments. Estee Lauder is a master of this, with different brands for different consumer groups.
This also leads to multiple segment specialization, where a firm selects a subset of attractive segments.
Right. P&G launched Crest White Strips by initially targeting newly engaged women and gay males, a strategy that diversifies risk by operating in multiple, non-correlated niches.
Then we hit the sweet spot for many successful firms, single segment concentration or the niche market.
Porsche is the perfect example, concentrating on the high-end sports car market. A niche is a narrowly defined group seeking a distinctive mix of benefits. Niche marketers aim to understand customers so well they willingly pay a premium.
Like enterprise rent-a-car attacking the low-budget insurance replacement niche that the big guys ignored.
Exactly. Or Tom's of Maine, which gets a 30% price premium because it's all natural products, appeal directly to consumers turned off by big business.
And finally, the ultimate level, individual marketing.
Or segments of one. This leads to customization, which combines mass customization with customized marketing. The firm provides the platform, but the consumer designs their own product.
Powerful, but not for everyone. It's difficult for complex products, it raises costs, and customers may not even know what they want until it's too late.
It's the ultimate trade-off between volume efficiency and personalization.
Let's end with a necessary discussion on the ethical choice of market targets. Marketers have a social responsibility here.
A huge one. The controversy lies in taking unfair advantage of vulnerable groups, like targeting children with highly sugared cereals, or targeting the inner-city poor with predatory appeals for fast food, liquor, or high-interest financial products.
The line is drawn by social responsibility targeting that serves the company's interests and the interests of those targeted.
Right. Positive examples include Colgate Jr., with features to make kids brush longer, or Black-owned Icy Theaters, which successfully served minority needs by using local radio and featuring favorite foods at concessions. The issue is never who is targeted, but how and for what purpose.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
To synthesize everything we've discussed today, target marketing is really the disciplined move away from scattering your efforts and towards focusing intensely on where your company can provide superior value. Segmentation isn't just about dividing groups. It's about defining distinct, unmet needs that you can uniquely satisfy.
We looked at the case studies, and BMW is the perfect example of doing this right while maintaining brand unity. The ultimate driving machine successfully targeted specific premium segments, the upper conservatives with the 7 Series, the upper liberals with the X5 SUV, sharing that core identity of performance and prestige.
And you can contrast that with HSBC, the world's local bank. Their positioning expertly manages that tension between being a huge international company and having crucial local knowledge. Their different values campaign embraced multiple viewpoints, and they combined it with hyperlocal efforts, like supporting the Hong Kong economy during SARS.
So we've covered the depth of segmentation, from geographic geoclustering and psychographic VALS frameworks, all the way to individual customization. The shift toward microsegments and personalization is just relentless.
It is. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to consider. If the long-tail theory is correct and the market continues to splinter, what value is left in maintaining a single unified brand message across all segments? And how far can a company go in customizing its offering before it loses its identity entirely?
That is the new challenge facing marketers in this era of infinite choice and personalization.